Hello, Kate here, and welcome back to our video series on learning to learn at home. Today's video is on self-regulation. Self-regulation is about monitoring and controlling our emotional state so that we can choose the behaviors that we want that are most appropriate to the task that we need to carry out. Now, learning, we often think of as being a cognitive thing, something that we just need our brains for. But actually, our ability to think effectively and to carry out cognitive tasks is really impacted on what's going on in our bodies. All of the time, we are being impacted by things that are happening on the periphery of our attention span in our environment. And it doesn't take much for our cognitive resources to be taken away from us. To demonstrate how easy that is, and so that we know what it feels like when it's happening, we're going to play a little game called OK, No Way, Bring It On. This game is really straightforward. All you need is to put a continuum in front of you. You can make it on a piece of paper in front of you, or you can just imagine it in your mind's eye on the screen as we go through. Now, on the left-hand side of that continuum are the words, no way. That's because there is no way that you want to do the thing that I am about to suggest that you do. In the center is OK. That means you're quite ambivalent about this suggestion. You would be perfectly okay to carry it out, and also, by the same token, you wouldn't be too upset if you were not invited to do it or if you were asked to stop. And on the right-hand side is bring it on. This means that you are really excited to do this activity or to carry out this suggestion. All I'm going to do is make suggestions to you. These things are not going to happen in the real world, but your nervous system is going to respond as if they potentially could happen. And I just want you to notice what that feels like, what happens inside your body, and what starts to happen to your thoughts as I make different suggestions. So the first suggestion is, how would you feel about looking after your friend's toddler for the whole day? Does that make you feel, oh God, no way, there's no way I'm doing that? Or do you feel that that would be a perfectly okay thing to do? You could fit that into your life easily. Or are you thinking, yeah, bring it on, I'd love to spend the day hanging out with a 2-year-old? What about if I suggested we go salsa dancing? How would you feel about that? Or how would you feel if I asked you to go for a long walk for charity? How would you feel about doing a bungee jump? And how would you feel if I asked you to give a speech at your best friend's wedding? Now, all of these suggestions are things that can happen in the real world, but they're not necessarily going to happen to you right now. When we do this activity live in a room full of people, it's really easy to see that they separate themselves all the way along the continuum. Even though they're all being given the same experience to think about, they experience the idea of doing that very differently. For one person, looking after a toddler feels like a completely okay thing to do. For another, it's sent them into a tailspin of panic and anxiety because they wouldn't know how to do it or to keep that child safe. For somebody else, they're already thinking about all of the cool stuff they're going to do all day with their friend's toddler. Now, depending on who you are, your past experiences, we all have a very unique history that makes us who we are. We're going to respond very differently. And the reason for doing this activity is to bring really to the forefront of your mind that when we make suggestions to our children of things that we want them to do, we might think that we're asking them to do something that's perfectly okay. It neither makes their heart beat fast and gets them all excited, and nor should it instill complete terror in them. However, you might find that asking children to decide what they want to learn, organise their own project, and complete it in their own time doesn't feel like a sensible suggestion. It doesn't feel okay to them. To them, it might feel like a bit of a white knuckle ride. They might be completely panicking that they won't know how to do it properly and that they're going to get everything wrong and that it's going to be a terrible disaster. For others, they might be thinking, like, yeah, amazing, I've got freedom to learn whatever I want, and off they go with no plan of action whatsoever. So what we want to be doing is starting from that space in the middle, from that okay zone, where you're neither too excited and going off half-cocked, or whether you are in a blind panic that you won't be able to do it properly. And it's really easy to get pulled into either of those two extremes. Some of you are probably still thinking about the last time you had to make a speech at somebody's wedding or another event, and either thoroughly enjoying reliving that story in your head or thinking about all the ways in which that was the most traumatic thing that you've ever had to do. But what it's done is taken your attention away from the task at hand, which is watching this video. Now, this is happening to us all day long. All day long, things are coming into the periphery of our attention and they are diverting our resources and pulling us into stories of the past or stories of the future. And what happens then is that they take resources away from us being able to think clearly. And the reason that's happening is that we all have an autonomic nervous system. So this is a whistle-stop explanation of what's happening under the surface that can sometimes drive our behaviours. Now, the autonomic nervous system is like the automatic nervous system. It takes care of all of the bodily functions that we don't have to think about. So it organises our breathing in and out for us. It organises our blood being pumped around our bodies. It manages our digestive system. And it does all of this without us having to tell it to. And all day long, it's going up and down, speeding up and slowing down according to what we need to do. Our sympathetic nervous system is what speeds it up. And it speeds up automatically, for example, if we need to run up the stairs, or if we want to go salsa dancing, or if we need to concentrate really hard on learning something, or maybe doing something difficult like driving a car at night on a motorway. And then it slows down again when we've finished doing that exciting or difficult task, and it switches back on our digestive system and our immune system, and it allows us to rest and digest and repair. And a well-regulated nervous system is doing this all of the time, and we never even need to think about it. Now, what happens sometimes is that our nervous system perceives something that's come into our environment as a bit of a threat, and it begins to push our responses into the extremes. Now, wired into our nervous system are our defense mechanisms, because if a threat comes into our environment, our bodies need to react instantly. They don't need us to think about it and decide where to divert our resources to. Those decisions are made for us instantly. You probably will have heard these terms: fight, flight, freeze, and faint. Now, these are our defensive mechanisms. They're perfectly normal, natural human responses to a threat in our environment. And when we think about these, we often think about the extreme version. So we imagine fight being somebody erupting in a rage, road rage, for example, or fighting their way out of an extreme experience. Flight can be somebody screaming and running away. Freeze, we imagine the rabbit in the headlights. And faint can manifest in people actually passing out. Now, the reality for most of us is that the threats that are coming into our environment aren't that big, and our responses aren't that extreme. So for me, when I've got too many things going on my mental dashboard, my fight response might be me losing my temper more quickly than usual. I might notice that I feel very irritable and frustrated. I might use stronger language than I would on a normal day. If I've gone into flight, I start to feel a bit anxious. I can't settle. I keep thinking there's something that I've forgotten to do, and I often want to be anywhere but where I am doing whatever it is that I'm doing. So it makes me zip around between activities, not being terribly efficient, but thinking all of the time that there's something more that I need to be doing. If I go into freeze, it's almost the opposite of that. I can't make a decision about what to do next. Everything feels a little bit too overwhelming, and I can't make a decision. Even by looking in the fridge, just staring into the abyss, trying to work out what I want to have for dinner. And faint, for me, is kind of when my personality just drains out of me. I can't get any energy to do anything. I just want to lay on the sofa and give in. Now, none of those behaviours are really me. They're not what I would choose if I was fully in control of all of my responses. And so when they start to happen, when I'm in my behaviours, if you like, I know that I've got too much going on somewhere. Something in my environment is disrupting my flow. Something in my environment needs to be dealt with. Now, I might not be able to deal with it straight away, but what I can do is regulate my nervous system. What I can do is take action to bring myself back into that safe zone. My nervous system is like autopilot. It's making these decisions for me. Like it makes the decisions about how much oxygen I need or how much blood I need to pump around my body. It also decides whether or not I need to be vigilant. And actually, most of the time, I can choose whether I need to be vigilant or not. I can choose where I want my cognitive resources, my mental capacity to be. And so in order to be able to choose that, I need to bring myself back from defensive mode into that safe mode, into that okay zone in the center. And that's where self-regulation comes in. Self-regulation involves noticing that you are in your behaviors and then regulating your way back, taking action, doing something that helps you to feel more calm and more in control and more fully able to access all of the skills and strategies that you have got in the filing cabinet of your brain. And these are the things that we need for learning effectively. So if you imagine that your body's on autopilot, we have 3 levers, if you like, that can manually override that happening. And they're really simple. You don't need anything special to make them happen. You can use your breath, you can use movement, and you can use thinking techniques. So your mind, your body, and your breath. And there are lots and lots of different exercises that go into each of these categories. And we'll put links to them underneath this video and a sheet up on our website if you want to find out more about them. Now, each of us will find that some techniques work better in certain situations. I know that if I'm in fight or flight, if I'm feeling tense and pent up, what I need to do is take a deep breath. And what that does is it tells my body that actually it is safe. When we take a deep breath and we exhale for longer than we inhale, that's what we're doing when we're sleeping. And we can only sleep when we're safe. So by doing that action, we trick our nervous system into thinking that everything's safe and it's okay to relax enough to go to sleep. And that's the kind of relaxed state that we want to be in when we want to concentrate on learning. So we're going to do an exercise together just so that you can experience what it feels like when your nervous system releases its grip on your body. And it's called the 4-7-8 breath. Very simple. All you have to do is follow the instructions on the screen. So you're going to inhale for 4 counts, then hold your breath for 7, and then very gently, smoothly relax your jaw as much as you can and allow your breath to leave your body for 8 long counts. Now that's a little bit longer probably than you feel like you want to breathe out for. The longer you breathe out for, the more enjoyable the next inhalation is. So let's try this together and see how it feels. Okay. Now hold for 7. And release your breath for 8. Hang in there. And inhale again for 4. And release. Well done. Now you may find that you have a desire to move your shoulders all of a sudden or to twist. You may have noticed that your brow feels a little less furrowed or that your jaw doesn't feel quite so tight. You might suddenly be much more aware of the tension that you were holding before. So we don't always notice that tension building up, but there are little behaviors that act as red flags that let us know that it's there. And something as simple as taking a breath can release that tension, giving us back all of our decision-making function so that we can choose to direct it at the task of learning. Now, learning successfully means that we need to place all of our attention on something and deliberately try to commit it to memory. So the more of our attention we have available to us for that job, the more successful we're going to be at learning. I hope that you enjoy practicing self-regulation, just tuning in and noticing how you're feeling, noticing your behaviors, and taking an action to tweak them back into that safe zone in the center where you feel calm in your mind and your body feels manageable. You're not holding too much tension. You're not too overexcited or too anxious, just in that central zone. Now, this doesn't mean that you never undertake anything that's challenging for you. The idea with this is that even when you are in something really challenging, you can use your breath And you can use your mind and you can use your body to make that challenge feel manageable so that you can continue with that challenge while still having all of your cognitive abilities available to you. So do let us know if you have any questions. Do let us know how you get on with this, and I will see you again soon in a new video. Take good care.